Oh, good afternoon. It's Wilbur Cook again, Hand Up Recovery Homes, here to talk about how we can help others turn their life around. Our main goal is changing lives and saving families. We realize that alcoholism, substance abuse, gambling addiction, and all other forms of addiction do not just hurt the individual, they literally hurt and destroy families. The individual is the one who primarily feels the physical part of their destruction. But the residual damage, or what they call in war collateral damage, is the family members and friends around them, especially those that end up being caretakers, those that end up being enablers, those that end up being crushed by the lack of responsibility of those adults. And sometimes children, but most of the time adults. It is a devastating illness, addiction itself. And addiction to anything can create problems for an individual, as well as what we don't always talk about is the families and friends of those individuals. It's hard to develop good, healthy relationships if you're addicted to a substance, sometimes addicted to a bad person, sometimes a good person being addicted to a bad person, children being addicted to substances or addicted to the wrong crowd of people, peer pressure. They feel obligated to stick with a group even if, because they are their friends, even though they're going down the wrong path of destruction, whether it's gangs, whether it's selling drugs, whether it's creating all kind of other mayhem, shoplifting, boosting, whatever term we want to use. Those things can destroy a child's life. And a good child oftentimes get caught up by being there. You know, you can get caught up with a criminal case by being with a crowd that's stealing. You can get caught up with a case of conspiracy to sell drugs by being with a crowd of people selling drugs. You can get caught with a murder case because your friend decided while you were around to shoot and kill someone. Oftentimes, we think of all this violence and everything as individual acts, but it's compounded by the devastating effect it has on the people around that person. A shooter destroys his family and the family of anyone he hits with a bullet. His family destroyed because his life, if he's caught, he's going to jail. And if he's not caught, oftentimes they stuck in a position of trying to protect him or the decision to turn him or her in. And we need to say him or her more than ever, because more and more, some of the new kingpins are non-existent today. They're queen pins. It's not just in the movies. Movie reflecting life and life reflecting movies. The reality is there's a lot of women gangsters out there. A lot of women shooters out there now. A lot of women setting up robbery rings now. And it's all because they're addicted to the money, the excitement, the lifestyle. So sometimes our goal is to help those addicted to alcoholism, substance abuse, and every now and then we get a gambler that is in a treatment program and they need somewhere to go because they've destroyed their home by gambling and need a reset and a restart. But the reality is there are so many other addictions we rarely talk about on this program, any programs. There are a few on gambling. I don't know if we have a regular one on CAN TV yet. And the other problem we got now is this another legal problem like alcohol. Folk that stay broke and they rob their family of opportunities to have this and that, their children, their wives, their mothers, their sisters, their brothers, because they rather smoke weed all day. And weed out the dispensary costs. It may be legal, but it's an upcharge. And then more and more, it's the safest opportunity if you're going to have that problem. Why? Because the streets have so much violence going on. The streets, you're not sure what you're going to get and what the quality is. You know you're going to get good quality at every dispenser that's open because of all the licensing and everything else go into it. But also, for that assurity, you're also going to get charged a hefty fee. And those fees can be adversely affect families. And so addiction on all levels and all substances destroy families. Now, the greatest culprit that's rarely held liable is our doctors who prescribe all these opioids, amphetamines, and other drugs for people. And we have to be careful, even the psychiatrists who like to dope them up. Some of them like writing scripts too, and people may or may not need them. And I assure you, I know firsthand, unfortunately, I had gotten myself stressed out and was starting to have anxiety attacks. And my doctor was ready to load me up on some medicine. I had to tell her, oh no, let's see how this low dose works. And I plan to get off this low dose. I've did self-medicating in the past, and I'm not ready to let you medicate me more than I need to be, even to deal with this imbalance chemically, mentally, emotionally I'm dealing with, because I'm trying to do so many things, help so many people, trying to keep a day job, trying to go to school for ministry, trying to take care of properties, plural at the time. I downsized all that and my anxieties are gone. And off the medicine. So, go show you. Got off myself originally and then inadvertently stayed off so long and didn't want to get back on it. And the doctor say, well, you're supposed to take it every day, and if you're not, you might as well be off it. I say, good answer, doc, I'm off it. And now I probably won't even have to go see the doctor, but once a year, once every 2 years in the future. Because when they ain't able to help medicate you and all that, they can't be seeing you all them different times. Insurance don't want to pay for you to sit there and talk to a psychiatrist. They rather pay for a therapist that's a lot cheaper. And I'm like, that's great. Keep the medicine and you can keep the appointments too. But we have to be careful even with medical professionals. They will dope us up. A big problem with no one really wants to acknowledge that our pharmaceutical companies and our doctors created the fentanyl problem in the streets of America. The Oxycontin problem in the streets of America was created by some good-intentioned doctors medicating pain for bone breaks, cancer, other sciatic nerve damage, all kind of things like that needed some heavy doses of medicine. But some, for the sake of them making money, kept prescribing this stuff. Then we got Walgreens lost the suit because Walgreens had some small towns with more scripts for fentanyl, Oxycontin than major cities, communities and cities with 20,000 people, and your town got 2,000, 3,000 people. How you had this many scripts going through? Or the amount of Sudafeds and other products used for creating various other drugs was leaving their shelves at astronomical numbers. How in this little small town you don't know somebody's making meth? Or that somebody's buying way too much of this stuff has to be going to some criminal use. There's no way your town could get all of a sudden have this issue where you can't keep certain drugs that's used to make other street drugs on your shelves. But everybody was making money. and they didn't guard the people of the community as well as they could. The people of other communities that start to receive these drugs that then damage plenty of families. You know, we don't talk about it as much as we still need to. Is meth is still out there. You know, they are still making different amphetamines on the streets and they're putting them out there. There are other new drugs are coming. We got to be careful, people. And they're destroying families and people that much faster. But we also have to guard our health from even the professionals that tend to help us. They will over-medicate us. And if it's a narcotic, we can end up addicted. And then when they're called to task, and then unfortunately as African Americans, we got this double weight. Half the time they don't want to give you the pain medicine you need, and then the other half of the time they give you more pain medicine you need for longer periods, and then you end up with an addiction. So there's a peculiar balance. One is historical. Historically, they always figure we stronger, we can handle the pain, or they not sure we're not coming because we poor backgrounds oftentimes. You're not coming just to get the medicine for pain because of an addiction. But either way, they're wrong. Because one, if they're over-medicating professionally, they're out of line. They're supposed to do no harm. So that means they're supposed to recognize, if no one else recognizes, that they've helped create an addiction and start helping you work on a solution to that addiction. And the other side is that they should not be preconditioned themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually to think that poor people are prone to come to them just to get some medicine for an addiction. They should have learned enough, been taught enough in medical school, and should have a objective enough idea of patients that they would not operate out of these stereotypes, out of these biases, because half the doctors in America are not Caucasians any longer, so they shouldn't have the biases that are in that systematic system. However, like role models, good and bad, we pick up on those good and bad habits of those role models. So if the medical institution still inherently has biases in it, those doctors, even as well-intentioned and as compassionate as they go into the field aspiring to be, they will pick up on those systematic biases and then demonstrate a career based on those if they don't work strongly against the tide. It's just like politicians trying to do right in their community, working against the tide, because there are a lot of people that's in politics just to make money. A lot of people in the policy making to make money. A lot of people in big business to make money. But big business is expected that they're in the business of making money. But you got nonprofits now that are in the business of big business making money. And then we wonder why the community people aren't helped more, because we got people even in nonprofit ranks now are in the big business of making big business, big money, and whether they help people or not. You know, CAN TV used to be one of those stations that helped groom people who had limited resources. Limited resources to develop an opportunity, get an opportunity, develop an opportunity to serve the community, to have airtime at a reasonable price. However, if we're not careful, those with means to have other opportunities to be on air will usurp CAN TV and use it for their own purposes versus the purposes of those who have less to actually build an opportunity to develop themselves, develop programming that they can aspire to do other things in society. And it is important that we always work for the good of others, but also that we don't forget to help continue to bring people up. And I'm going to throw this fact out. The Democrats are as much to blame about President Trump being a president as he is about knowing how to use the media extremely well. They did more to help him maybe than the Republicans in the United States. Why do you say that? Well, I say that because so many Democratic communities are still struggling, and that gave people the reason to vote for somebody different. And on the Republican side, for president, the only person available was Donald Trump. We've had 40, 50 years of consistent Democratic power in the state of Illinois. And they did not rebuild the west side of Chicago. They did not help rebuild Englewood. They did not help rebuild a lot of struggling South suburban African-American communities and a lot of other communities. And now we're saying, well, if you're African-American, you shouldn't vote for Trump. Well, if you've been under Democratic leadership in our communities for 40 years, from the state to the county to the city, and everything around you look as horrible as it does, why wouldn't some of them give their vote to Trump? It's not their fault that the Democratic system from top to bottom in the state of Illinois did not repair the damage done from the '68 riots. But tell the truth, they didn't repair the damage done in urban renewal, clearing the land and just tearing down state-of-the-art historical buildings all over the west side and Englewood. And then they didn't solve the crime problem, even though overtime for the police department was going up by 50, 100, and $200 million. And now on top of that, the bad policing is still costing us 50, 100 million every 6 months, oftentimes in this current government that's $1 billion in the hole. And 200 million is for past misdeeds of the Chicago Police Department. And the reality is they were known misdeeds when they were done. And in the county, not talked about much, is paying out lawsuits also in the millions for malfeasance that state's attorneys knew they were committing. They wanted to just solve a crime. And you would think in 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, that some things would have changed from 1910, 1810 in this country, 1710 in this country. But in 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, up to almost 2015, a lot of things were still going on in the law enforcement of the country, in the United States of America, in the city of Chicago, and many other cities like it, as if we were still in the 1700s and the 1800s and the early 1900s, where biases and racism was systemically utilized to just incarcerate people wrongly just to say you incarcerated someone. Juries were picked of black people's peers that didn't have a black person on them. How's that a jury of your peers? But that's always been the guideline legally, a jury of peers. So now let's juxtapose why many poor communities in Chicago and across the states have all these addiction problems. You've destroyed their family legally in so many wrong ways. Then you've kept them in systemic poverty by not giving them the advantages to have the job opportunities to even help in their communities. We know there's an unemployment problem in North Lawndale, an unemployment problem in East and West Garfield, and every agency, nonprofit, profitable, and everything else that comes into those communities oftentimes do not have to hire people in those communities. So what do? You end up with continued poverty, continued unemployment. Well, no wonder they selling drugs on the street to survive in America, because you cannot survive in America without money. No cash flow, no survival in America. Even the homeless can't survive without getting out there hustling a few bucks every day. That check only lasts a few days, a few weeks if you manage well and don't have an addiction. But if you got an addiction other than straight alcohol, any drugs, within a few days, a week, your money pretty much is spent from those checks. And it doesn't matter necessarily how much the checks, because you spend it that much faster because of the addiction. Those with bigger money usually have bigger addictions, or they have a few people they help out around them, they entourage, and they all help spend up the money. We have to work on all the solutions to repair addiction. Just like we have to remember, like we're always talking about programs for ex-offenders, we need to make it sure we don't forget to create more programs for their children that they have caused irreparable harm by going in and out the penitentiary or being stuck in the penitentiary. When we talk about helping people get off alcoholism and substance abuse, when we talk about them repairing their lives, we can't forget to also be helping mom with all the stress that caused the high blood pressure, may have caused the stroke. We got to continue to provide services for that mother. Then, or the sisters and brothers that have tried to help fill the gap for that missing adult that had children. Or the girlfriend. Sometimes people, if it ain't a wife, is what we don't want to talk about it. No. Girlfriends got a lot of babies out here of a lot of addicted people, and they need help with them children while their mate is struggling with his addiction. But don't just help the mate with his addiction or her addiction and not help the family members that's helping take care of those children. Whether it be his girlfriend, his significant other, whatever name we want to use, partner, or whether it is the mother, the grandmother, the auntie, the great-grandma in some cases, or grandmothers. We need to provide services for each stage of the process because each person has been adversely affected by those addicted. So as we do it a hand up, whenever we can, we make sure we refer people to all services. Anytime I'm dealing with somebody with substance abuse, and then a lot of times family members call to see if they can find housing, I remind them, try to get an Al-Anon. If they got teenage children, try to get them an Alateen. People need resources. People need help. They need to be directed. And I do a lot of that because I care about the community. We are limitedly funded. We haven't been funded regularly in a while now. But we're still advocating for the positive change in our community and building back toward funding. We was in the midst of applying for some federal stuff, but because we did such a poor job as Democrats across the country, we lost the presidency. And he clamped down on everything that supposedly said DEI, but that's bad. He's killing more people than DUIs. Let's go figure. His policies killing more people than DUIs. But legal and illegal, but the DEIs, and then what's adversely affected is to stop minorities and others from getting these programs. He's stopping the disabled of all nationalities and Caucasians, Indians, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, blacks, everybody's getting stopped. Women getting hurt the most, children getting hurt the most of all groups, all ethnicities, in order to stop some adults from benefiting from some of these programs. So it's been a difficult thing to accept, but if the Democrats, I'm telling you now, if we don't accept the fact we have not taken care of the communities like we should have, and poor communities and poor people and lower middle class, we don't even hardly talk about the lower middle anymore or poor people. We always talk about the middle or the upper middle, trying to save them from struggles. We got to raise the bottom up, you all, and somehow we start talking about a raised bottom that does not exist in America, and then we got another second term of Donald Trump. And some of what he's doing is helping. We got to admit that. So I hope moving forward, all hands on decks with addiction, but that means also realizing we got too many people addicted to public policy money, taxpayer money, so that do not help the taxpayers. And with that, I'm going to cut it short and see you next week for some more dialogue on how we can help people change their lives. Thank you. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure. Be blessed and be happy.